So I do need approval for Jenny and I to attend the Kansas Emergency Management Association conference coming up. It will be the dates of September 11th through the 14th.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's important that both of you go and attend. Yeah.
Do we need a formal motion on that, or?
No, just
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just approval.
And then also, just in preparation, the federal government is releasing the grants for emergency management has been a little delayed this year. So the state is working on their end to get everything. Normally, the applications for those grants come out in June. We still have not seen them yet. But I had an email update that said that they are going to be coming out in the next few weeks. So I wanted to also get your approval to go ahead and apply for the emergency management performance grant. We do that annually. There is a match for that. It's a 50-50 match, but we match it. It's called a soft match. So the money we're already spending in EM goes to match that. So,
okay.
If that makes.
And what's that called?
Emergency Management Performance Grant. So when I get that application, I just wanted to, if you guys are okay with that, we'll go ahead and apply for that. So.
Yes.
That brings about, it's a little over $30,000 roughly in different grants to all three counties. So.
Okay, yeah. Carry on.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, Rod, we're running a little early. If you're...
Dave and JR are going to be part of it too, so.
Okay. We'll try to round them up. How's the building coming?
Last I know, they're still working on it. I mean, it's close, but
What I understand were some issues in regards to whereby they couldn't work on it, but I think that has been resolved whereby they can go back and work on it. So hopefully
I knew there was some conflict there. Are they utilizing it at all? Make anything over there?
yeah, they got Dumber over there. They got get in there.
Well, loosened up a little room up there anyway.
They got two cameras.
No, I just need some time to sit down and focus on it.
I'm just testing about putting the sign.
Right.
Pretty
And I
good
can,
computer system.
Right,
That's
right.
pretty big stuff.
I haven't been over there. I need to go
All
over
right,
there.
I just say, hey, we got it.
Yeah, there ain't much to do. We just
page with some contract.
okay, yeah.
He said it's just one of the things.
I do think I got him. I got to put mulch along
Yeah.
the street too. Because I told him, well, let's just get a horse.
Right, and what I've already visited with Amanda.
Yeah.
Okay.
In
And
regards
Big
to
Greens, they
down
didn't wash his rocks out of there. You can't hardly put anything in there.
Well, I know up the street from my
So,
house
like I
there.
said, once I get a moment that I can just sit down with Amanda and be like, okay.
Put a bunch of that in and then a big
No,
rain
no,
comes.
well,
Yeah.
the hard
That's the problem
part
we got
is
here in
getting
town.
the legal
They'll come in and fill in the
description
driveway,
figuring
and
out
then
what
next rain
exactly
washes it down the street.
Which I believe on one of them, they've got the footage wrong, and then on the other, they have, like the point of beginning.
Something, it's directly over the far corner.
Yeah, and you know,
Okay.
like the highway right of ways, they've
Yeah,
changed over
yeah,
the years.
yeah.
And so, you know, we've got a lot of
I'm
things that are
surprised
going
good
on.
Samaritan when they sold the land, they didn't make that all clear.
Yeah, but we'll do
Okay,
this.
just keep-
All right, we will.
I won't do anything until I hear from you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Transfer, yeah, I just, yeah. No, okay, fine.
Apparently JR's tied up and won't be able to make it, so.
Okay. Okay, Rod. Good morning.
This has turned into a couple different deals. The original was on my north drive that runs out on Benton Street. Okay. that usually plugs up. It doesn't actually plug up. It can't flow what it needs to.
Not big enough culvert.
It's not big enough. I'll kind of back up and kind of start. The south ditch, which is on North Street, okay, that cannot handle that. Something needs done with that because there's between 85 and 90% of the runoff from Dennison Street that ends up turning going down my drive.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
That turns,
It just turns in?
It just turns and goes down my drive, right through mine, and it ends up washing part of that culvert, that north culvert out. Washes my drive out. Dave and JR and I are to work on a solution for that ditch.
For the North Street.
For the North Street. My suggestion, as it was last time, was to have a study done, to have an engineering firm come in and look at the situation, look at the problem. When we first moved in there, that ditch was a good 6-8 feet deep. And it has since been filled in and that street redone. So now we get all the runoff.
So, in your mind, what would be a solution to the problem? I mean, how can we?
There are a couple different ways a guy could go, in my mind, and that's why I think bringing somebody in that can kind of look at the way the water's flowing and how things are doing would be the best, and then take their recommendation.
Dave, what's your opinion on that?
I know that Rob's right. I mean, the water's all going that way. Most of it's coming out of almost everything coming out of the city drainage that direction. It's extremely expensive to do under street storm drains or stuff like that. Since we had discussed that, what's probably been, what we say, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been 4 or 5 years ago.
We did have Kale with that electronic surveying device do some shots and stuff like that as far as drainage. Part of it, I think, is correct, as it's got a gradual taper to this point, and it almost levels off a little bit about at your drive and then tapers on down. And the flood waters are probably deterring that and turn that a little bit.
You can look at that street and see that it gradually goes up to my drive, and then it drops back off.
Well, you can see some, we're at 5.4, 5.4, and then it starts coming back up again. So I think that's turning some of that water his direction. The ditch has silted back in, which we agreed at the city meeting that we would go ahead and clean that out again.
But that's just a short term.
That's a short term.
How big is the culvert down there?
There is no culvert. There used to be an 18-inch culvert in his drive, and it was always silting in.
So you just.
And that's the reason we took it out, left it lower, and then it just kind of had a sway drive. And then we had trouble with that, so then we went further north and then added a little asphalt berm to raise that up just a little higher, try to divert some of that water out of there. But nevertheless, flood waters are going to come through there.
Well, with all the north-south streets up in here draining right in
Yeah,
there.
and you probably see it where you live there. It's just a river right through there.
So what would be a good fix? I mean, a long-term type fix?
I've mentioned
There's
it.
water goes in Bob Smith's drive too.
There is a culvert in Bob Smith's drive, and it's about, we got to clean it out too, so.
Yeah, and Bob's got that culvert, and that culvert is a whole lot lower than what my ditch is. It comes up from Bob's.
So it's just pooling there more than anything.
There's not, he gets a little bit, I get the majority of it. That's why I kind of go back to, I'd like to have somebody study the issue or look at the issue. I think the long-term solution, and I suggested this before, was to V that block, V the street, back just a little bit past Denison, and start that into a V. That water can come down and stay in the street. If there's going to be a little runover on these, especially the heavy rains. But if it can stay in the street and get down and turn and go in that ditch that heads north at Benton Street, I think we would be better off. I think that's going to be the permanent solution. The best solution.
And of course, the catch of that street is half of it belongs to the county and the other half is city.
Right. Right.
Did the city have any input on what?
They're pretty much just, we'll help with equipment. I don't think he went as far as manpower, but.
Yeah, they said they'd try to work
equipment.
with it,
Yeah.
but, they wasn't interested in any storm drains, and then I think that night we just kind of agreed on the ditch cleaning.
Yeah. JR, I'd met with him earlier, and he said, we work, he said, the city's always told me, work with the county.
And we have a good
Yeah.
relationship, so that's
And that's kind of what it was, whatever solution Dave and JR and I come up with.
well.
I'd even mentioned to Rod, at one time, maybe putting in a circle drive, to get some of that, and not put culverts in, maybe to get some of this water to go north, or possibly even put in a storm drain from there to send some of this water north, but then
Back on me.
it's back on you or something like that, and we'd have to go quite a ways to get,
Yep.
but it's floodplain, so you're always going to fight it too.
That's the first part.
Well, obviously this is an ongoing problem that just has never gotten resolved.
It's been ongoing, long time.
Well, again, Dave is the expert here. I don't know enough about water runoff to even make a suggestion. But I think if you guys, between the three of you, can work together and come up with a plan, we'd be willing to support that.
Okay. Do we want to go to looking at an engineering study then? Or get some estimates, see what we're looking at? I think.
Might not be a bad idea,
Okay.
just to get a ballpark number of,
That's what I'd like to see.
what we're looking at.
Okay. Because the problem if you V the street is, you're going to probably, asphalt would be the cheaper route, and then if you go to concrete, it's real expensive, then you always have the freezing and everything like that in that area. But it's something to study.
That intersection's always it's always an ice rink anyway. Because, obviously you guys are doing other stuff and the city don't plow it, and it's always a mess anyway in the wintertime.
Well, let's get some professional opinions on,
Okay.
That's
then we
what
can go from there.
That's what I'd like to see. So,
Okay.
the other part of this is the north drive that goes
So past the intersection and then back into your place.
north.
Right.
Yeah, on Benton Street. That has always washed out. It does silt in, with tree limbs and everything, and I always try to keep it opened up. Especially if we get this water turned to go down that ditch, this culvert that's there is not going to be big enough. It's not big enough now. Dave and I've had the conversation numerous times about that culvert. Been told that there's nothing that can be done because the phone line's in the ditch, bottom of the ditch. It's not.
The phone line's on the shoulder, and they also have a sewer line.
Right. The sewer line runs right at the edge of the asphalt, and the phone line's about 3 feet from it. So it's not even anywhere close to this culvert. I would like to see a bigger culvert put in, bigger diameter, or another one of the same size. So we can
have two.
Two. We can double the capacity of the water that goes through there. We had talked at one time about a box culvert. You know, if you find one that, you know, took one out somewhere or whatever, that would be a solution.
There's a couple of them out at the state took out.
That was broken up so bad, and then we wound up
You just
crushed it, yeah. In fact, that's one of the thoughts it was, because it was like a 2x4, but
You should have been here sooner.
Let's see what an expert has to say about this runoff, and then what's your opinion on the culvert situation? Would a bigger one help?
it'd definitely help. There's just a lot of water that comes that direction. And see, probably 20 years ago, we didn't even have one, and then
That North
maybe more
Drive
than that,
has
'cause
always been
it-
one
well, we
since
put,
we moved in.
yeah, but before that, there wasn't one, and then the city just, when they did the trash service, they said, sure be nice if we come in that way, and that's the reason we added it, but we've had trouble since then. And once you have it, it's convenient to have it there.
Well, it sounds like you're all working together.
Yeah, I think, this is my feeling, we need to talk to the city because it's all city water. And it's not county water. It's coming off the city.
But
It ends up in the county, I know.
I can't imagine a solution for that.
But they ought to be involved. If we're gonna be putting bigger culverts and stuff, they should be involved in it.
Okay.
That's my feeling.
Well, and that's where I've had the issue that, you know, when I bring this up, I get it's the city's fault, it's, you know, I go to the city, it's the county's fault. Nothing gets done.
Yeah, and now with the budgets being as tight as they are, we've got to really stop and look at,
You know, yeah.
try to do the right thing the first time.
Well, I thought maybe with the vegetation and everything that was getting grown in those ditches, and we keep them mowed and so the trash won't fill in.
Yeah,
So I brought in a $400 load of Cleachy, leveled it all out, had everything great. We had that 30/100ths rain and it started, and yeah, it's all down at the river now. On its way to the river now.
yeah.
And I can't keep with the budget, my budget's the same
Sure,
as yours, you know,
sure.
I can't keep bringing in $400 or $500 loads of good fill dirt, good
Okay.
fill material.
All right,
And
well,
we try to keep that mowed, you know, by his, pretty good, you know, by his street, and then we also go clear along the railroad, because see, that's where it all dumps out, you know, and diverts back to the east probably quarter of a mile or something, so. Because we've had that so full of weeds before, you know, and then just backs water up further, you know, towards the old Bartlett elevator and his place as well.
Now, like I said, we try to keep it mowed down,
Agree.
you know, in front and on the west side that, you know, it won't.
the trash out.
Yeah.
well,
Sounds like you were, I think, fixing that ditch. That east-west ditch will help a bunch.
Because there's a good 85–90% of that runoff goes through my yard. And, you know, it hits that drive and it just turns, and there's a little bit that trickles on west and then turns and goes north.
all right, well, sounds like you're on the right track. Let's start looking at some people to
Okay?
give us their opinion. Then we'll
That's
go from
what
there.
I'd like to see.
Well, let's do it, see what happens.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thanks, Rod.
Thanks.
Take a 5-minute break.
I guess we can.
We're running just a little bit ahead, so I think we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll be right back.